The rain hadn't stopped since morning, and the cemetery was quiet except for the soft tapping on umbrellas and the distant hum of cars from the street. My black heels sank slightly into the wet grass as I stood beside the coffin. My husband's coffin. Family, neighbors, and church members filled the rows of folding chairs, whispering prayers and condolences. My 2 children, Malik and Tiana, clung to me, their faces heavy with grief. Everyone believed Marcus was gone. The pastor's voice was solemn, echoing through the drizzle. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes. I lowered my head, but just as I whispered my final goodbye, my phone buzzed in my purse. At first, I ignored it. Who calls during a funeral? But it wouldn't stop. With shaking hands, I slipped it out, shielding the screen from the rain. The caller ID froze my breath. Marcus. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping the phone. My heart pounded louder than the pastor's words. I pressed answer, my voice barely a whisper. Hello. A hoarse voice broke through static. I'm alive. I'm not in the coffin. The world tilted. My knees weakened. I gripped the edge of the umbrella to keep from collapsing. Who are you? I can't say. They're watching. Don't trust the children. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my pulse racing. My husband, whose lifeless body I had supposedly identified at the morgue, whose death certificate was signed, whose funeral was happening right now, just told me he was alive. I looked at my son Malik. His sharp eyes caught mine, unreadable. Tiana looked down, twisting her hands nervously. A shiver crawled up my spine. Had I buried a stranger? Or worse, was I part of something I didn't understand? The pastor closed the Bible, signaling for the coffin to be lowered. Everyone rose, tossing roses onto the polished wood. I felt dizzy, my world unraveling. As people hugged me, I forced myself to smile, but inside I was trembling. Later, when the cemetery cleared, I returned to the grave. The ground was already sealing Marcus's coffin beneath mud. My phone buzzed again, this time a text message from an unknown number. They lied to you. Tonight, after midnight, go to the old warehouse on 8th Street. Come alone. My breath caught. The warehouse. Marcus's old spot, where he used to run side hustles before we married. I had 2 choices, pretend this was madness, or go find out if my husband was really alive. As I walked back to the car with my children behind me, I caught Malik whispering something into Tiana's ear. They stopped when they saw me watching. Something about their silence felt wrong. I drove us home, but my mind wasn't on the road. It was on midnight, and the warehouse, and the voice that swore my husband wasn't in that coffin. When midnight came, I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake the kids. I drove through the empty streets of Atlanta, headlights slicing through fog, until the warehouse came into view. The iron doors stood half open. Inside was nothing but shadows and dripping pipes. My phone vibrated again. Come inside. Don't be afraid. I stepped in, my heels echoing on the concrete. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. Vanessa. The voice was familiar, but the face was twisted with scars, bruises, and fear. My hands flew to my mouth. It was Marcus. Dear God, I whispered. You're alive. But before I could run to him, a flashlight beam cut across the room. The sound of footsteps followed. Marcus's eyes widened with terror. They followed you, he hissed. Run. And then I heard another voice, cold and sharp from the shadows. Too late. We've been waiting for you. The beam of the flashlight froze me in place. My heart hammered so loud I was sure the strangers in the warehouse could hear it. Marcus shoved me behind a stack of wooden crates, his face pale with fear. Don't move, he whispered. Footsteps echoed against the concrete, steady and heavy, growing closer. Another light cut through the shadows, sweeping across the cracked floor until it landed on the crates where we hid. Marcus, a man's voice called out, deep and mocking. You've caused us a lot of trouble. You should have stayed dead. I clutched Marcus's arm, my throat dry. He squeezed my hand once, his eyes begging me not to speak. The man's silhouette came into view. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black with a cap pulled low over his face. Behind him, 2 others followed, one carrying what looked like a crowbar, the other holding a phone up like he was recording everything. Marcus stood, his body shielding mine. "Leave her out of this," he said, his voice trembling but defiant. The man laughed. "You brought her here. She was never supposed to know." The light swung toward me. My face burned as the man's eyes met mine. He tilted his head. "So this is the widow." He stepped closer, and I caught his features under the light. Smooth brown skin, sharp jaw, a scar running from his ear to his neck. I didn't recognize him, but something about the way he studied me felt personal. Marcus moved to block him. "Don't touch her, Daryl." The name hit me like a jolt. Daryl. Marcus's cousin. The one who vanished years ago after a fight over money. Family had whispered he was in prison or worse. But now here he was, alive, dangerous, and standing in the shadows of the warehouse. Daryl sneered. "Always playing the hero, cousin. But tell me, did you tell her the truth? Does she know why you had to fake your death?" My head spun. "What are you talking about?" Marcus's lips tightened. "Vanessa, don't listen to him." But Daryl stepped closer, his voice dripping with venom. "Your husband owed us. Gambling debts, business gone bad. He thought he could run. Thought he could disappear. But the children. They know the deal. That's why they've been keeping quiet around you." My stomach dropped. "The children." Daryl smirked. "Malik and Tiana aren't as innocent as you think. Ask them who's been paying their new bills, buying them toys, sending them messages at night." I shook my head violently. "No. My children would never." But deep down, the way they'd whispered at the funeral, the way Malik's eyes held something secret, it gnawed at me. Marcus grabbed my hand. "We're leaving." But the men closed in, blocking the exit. Daryl tapped the crowbar with his fingers. "Not tonight." In one sudden motion, Marcus shoved a crate down, scattering wood across the floor. He yanked me through a side passage as the men shouted and chased us. My heels slipped on the wet concrete, but Marcus dragged me until we burst out into the night air. We sprinted to my car, my breath ragged, my heart in my throat. Marcus dove into the passenger seat, yelling, "Go!" I slammed the gas, tires screeching against the pavement as the warehouse shrank in the rearview mirror. For a long moment, the only sound was the rain hammering the windshield. My chest heaved. "Marcus, what the hell is going on?" He rubbed his scarred face, wincing like the truth hurt more than the chase. "I didn't die, Vanessa. I had to disappear. They were going to kill me over money I owed. I staged everything. The morgue worker was paid off. The funeral. I thought you'd be safe if you believed I was gone." My hands tightened on the wheel. "Safe? You let me bury you. You let your children cry themselves to sleep thinking their father was dead. Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" His eyes glistened. "I thought it was the only way." Silence hung between us until I whispered, "And what about Malik and Tiana? What did Daryl mean?" Marcus turned to the window, his jaw tightening. "They're in deeper than you think. Malik's been helping them. Daryl probably threatened him. They're using the kids against me." The words cut me like glass. Malik, my sweet quiet boy, mixed up in this? I wanted to scream, but the lump in my throat was too heavy. We pulled into a deserted gas station. Marcus leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Vanessa, I need you to trust me. We can fix this, but you can't let the kids know I'm alive. Not yet." I stared at him, rage boiling under my grief. "You want me to keep lying? After everything?" Before he could answer, headlights flared in the mirror. A black SUV rolled into the lot, its windows tinted. Marcus's body stiffened. "They found us." I panicked, slamming the gearshift. But before I could pull out, the SUV door opened, and Malik stepped out. My son. My 15-year-old son, standing tall in the rain with a phone pressed to his ear. His eyes were cold, harder than I'd ever seen them. "Mom," he said flatly, his voice carrying through the downpour, "you weren't supposed to see him. Go home." Take Tiana. Leave this alone. Tears blurred my vision. Malik, baby, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? He glanced at Marcus, his jaw tightening. I told them you'd mess everything up. And now you have. The SUV engine roared to life behind him. More doors opened. Figures climbed out, surrounding us. Marcus reached for me. Vanessa, drive. But Malik lifted his hand, and the men froze. They were waiting on him. My son wasn't just caught up in this. He was part of it. Mom, he said softly, almost regretful, if you love us, you'll forget you ever saw him. If you don't, you won't make it home tonight. The rain pounded harder as I stared at him, my hands trembling on the wheel, my heart breaking wide open. The rain fell harder, blurring the world into streaks of water and headlights. Malik stood there in his soaked hoodie, his eyes colder than the storm. Behind him, the men from the SUV waited for his signal, their faces hidden in shadows. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My son, my baby, looked like a stranger. Malik, I whispered through the glass, my voice cracking. You're scaring me. Please, just get in the car. We can go home, talk this out. He shook his head slowly, water dripping down his face. There's no going back, Mom. You don't understand what he did. He pointed at Marcus. He left us. He left you. I'm not protecting him anymore. Marcus cursed under his breath. Malik, don't do this. You don't know everything. Daryl's been feeding you lies. Lies. Malik snapped, his voice rising above the rain. You're the liar. You faked your death. You let us bury you. Do you know how many nights I heard Mom crying in her room? Do you know what it's like to be the man of the house at 15? And now you want me to protect you? His words cut me open. My son's pain was raw, jagged. But his anger was sharper, and it wasn't aimed at me, it was aimed at Marcus. The men behind him shifted, restless. One stepped forward with a gun bulging under his jacket. I gasped, slamming my hand against the horn. The sound pierced the night. Malik. I cried. Baby, listen to me. Whatever's going on, whatever they promised you, it's not worth this. You're my son. You're better than this. For a flicker, his eyes softened. I saw the boy who used to climb into my bed after nightmares, the boy who begged me for pancakes every Saturday morning. But then Daryl stepped out of the SUV, smirking like a snake. Careful, Vanessa, he drawled. The boy's finally growing into a man. Don't ruin his moment. Marcus growled, trying to open the passenger door, but Malik raised his hand again. Don't move. If you leave this car, I can't stop them. The betrayal twisted inside me. My son wasn't just standing with them. He was leading them. I turned the key, the engine rumbling. Marcus grabbed my arm. Vanessa, we can't just sit here. They'll drag us out. My pulse hammered. If I drive, they'll shoot. If I stay, they'll take you. What do we do? Marcus's jaw tightened. Trust me. Before I could answer, he shoved the gearshift into reverse and stomped on my foot, slamming it onto the gas. The car jerked backward, knocking into the SUV. Shouts erupted. Malik dove out of the way as bullets cracked through the air, shattering the rear windshield. I screamed, glass raining over my shoulders. Marcus yanked the wheel, spinning us around. Tires screeched as we tore out of the gas station, headlights slicing through sheets of rain. The SUV roared to life behind us, chasing. Marcus. I shouted. They'll kill us. He leaned out the window, firing 2 shots from a gun I didn't even know he had. The SUV swerved, but it didn't stop. I weaved through side streets, my hands slippery on the wheel. Every corner felt like a trap. The SUV stayed close, its lights blinding, its engine snarling. Marcus barked directions. Left. Cut through Auburn Avenue. We raced through Atlanta's empty midnight streets, past boarded-up stores and flickering traffic lights. My breath came in short gasps, fear pressing against my chest like a vice. Finally, Marcus pointed. Here. Pull into that alley. I swerved into a narrow gap between brick buildings. The SUV skidded past, missing us. We held our breath as it thundered down the street, its taillights vanishing into the storm. The silence after the chase was deafening. My body shook uncontrollably, adrenaline still coursing. I slammed the car into park and turned to Marcus, tears streaming. "This is insane," I cried. "Our son just stood there and my voice broke. He threatened us." Marcus's face was stone. "Daryl's poisoned him. He's using Malik to get to me." I buried my face in my hands. No, he's just a boy. He doesn't understand." Marcus grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "Vanessa, listen to me. They're not going to stop. And if Malik's working with them, that means he's dangerous. We can't trust him." I shoved his hand away. "Don't you dare say that about my son. He's confused, but he's still mine. He's still ours." His eyes darkened. "You don't get it. If Malik's crossed that line, he won't hesitate to sell us out again. We have to be ready to fight him like the enemy." The words hit me like a punch. Fight my own child? I wanted to scream at Marcus, but deep down, fear gnawed at me. What if he was right? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A new text lit up the screen, from an unknown number. "Next time, we won't miss. Bring Marcus to the docks tomorrow night, or Malik pays the price." I gasped, showing Marcus the message. His face twisted with rage. "They're using him as bait now. Damn it." I grabbed his arm. "Then we go. We'll protect Malik." But Marcus shook his head. "That's what they want. They'll kill all of us at the docks. We need another plan." "Then what?" I cried. "Sit here and wait for them to come to our house? Put Tiana in danger?" The mention of our daughter's name sent a shiver through us both. Marcus rubbed his temples. "We need leverage. Proof. Something that'll put Daryl away before he destroys us." I exhaled shakily, staring out at the rain. "And where do we get that?" Marcus's eyes flickered with something dark. "The kids. Malik knows everything. If we can turn him back, make him see the truth, he could be our only way out." My stomach twisted. Convince my own son to betray the people he'd just defended? Could I do that? As if the universe wanted to mock me, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video message. I pressed play with trembling fingers. The screen filled with Malik's face. His eyes were empty, his tone cold. "Mom, stay out of this. If you come to the docks, they'll kill Dad, and maybe you too. Just take Tiana and leave Atlanta. Forget us. If you love me, you'll do what I say." The video ended. Tears spilled down my cheeks. My son wasn't begging for help. He was warning me to run. Marcus snatched the phone, his jaw clenched. "They've brainwashed him. We have to get him back before it's too late." I stared at the black screen, my heart breaking. "And if we can't?" He didn't answer. Lightning split the sky outside, flooding the alley with white light. For a moment, I saw our reflections in the rearview mirror. Two broken parents clinging to lies, betrayal, and the hope of saving a boy who might already be lost. The thunder rolled and I whispered, "Marcus, what if Malik doesn't want saving?" Marcus turned toward me, his eyes haunted. "Then we'll have to choose between him and survival." Before I could respond, a loud thunk hit the back of the car. We both spun around. Through the shattered rear window, a figure climbed onto the trunk, dripping wet, eyes blazing. It was Malik. And he was holding a gun. The rain pounded against the broken glass, dripping onto the back seat. My son, my own flesh and blood, crouched on the trunk, soaked, shaking, but with a gun steady in his hands. His eyes were wild, torn between fear and fury. "Don't move," Malik shouted, his voice breaking through the storm. I turned slowly, my heart splintering. "Baby, please. Put it down. You don't have to do this." "Shut up, Mom," he snapped, though his voice trembled. "I told you to leave this alone. You didn't listen." Marcus leaned forward, hands raised. "Malik, listen to me. You don't want to do this. Daryl's using you. You don't get to say his name. Malik's voice cracked. You left us. You died, remember? You don't get to come back and play father now. My tears blurred everything. Malik, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But this isn't you. You're not a killer. He swallowed hard, the gun trembling in his grip. For a moment, I thought he'd lower it, but then headlights flared at the mouth of the alley. The SUV. Daryl's men spilled out, weapons glinting under the storm. One shouted, "Do it, Malik. End it now." Marcus cursed, yanking me down. "Get low." The night exploded into chaos. Gunshots rang, echoing off brick walls. Sparks flew as bullets ripped into the car. I screamed, covering my head. Malik stumbled on the trunk, caught between us and them. Marcus shoved his door open, firing back. "Run, Vanessa." But I couldn't leave. Not without my son. I climbed out the driver's side, hands raised, rain soaking through my clothes. "Stop." I screamed. "Please stop shooting. He's just a boy." The gunfire faltered. Daryl stepped into the light, umbrella over his shoulder like he was strolling through a park. His grin gleamed in the rain. "Well, well," he said smoothly. "The family reunion's in full swing." Marcus aimed his gun at him, chest heaving. "Daryl, let him go. This is between us." Daryl chuckled. "Oh, cousin. You never did understand. It was never just about you." Malik chose his side. He turned to my son. "Show him." Malik's hands shook harder. He glanced at me, then at Marcus, then back at Daryl. The weight of the world pressed on his small shoulders. "Malik, please," I whispered, inching closer. "You don't have to prove anything to him. You're my son. You're not his soldier. Don't listen to her." Daryl barked. "Do it, and you'll finally be free of him. No more running. No more lies. Just power." Malik's chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. His finger tightened on the trigger. My knees went weak. And then bang. The sound split the night. I froze, bracing for pain, but it wasn't me. Daryl staggered, clutching his arm, blood seeping through his jacket. One of his own men had fired, at him. "What the hell?" Daryl roared, stumbling back. The shooter lowered his gun, stepping forward into the light. My breath caught. It was Tiana. My daughter. My sweet 12-year-old daughter, holding a pistol with both trembling hands. Her eyes were wide with terror, but her aim was deadly steady. "Get away from my family," she shouted, her voice cracking. Everything stopped. Even the rain seemed to pause. Daryl's men stared, unsure whether to laugh or run. Malik's gun wavered, his eyes darting to his little sister. "Tiana, what are you doing?" Tears streamed down her face. "Saving you, stupid." Marcus seized the moment, firing at the ground to scatter the men. "Vanessa, grab her." I ran, heart hammering, and pulled Tiana into my arms. The gun fell from her hands as she sobbed into my chest. Malik's grip loosened, the gun slipping from his fingers onto the trunk. His face crumpled, confusion and guilt fighting for control. "Malik," I whispered, reaching for him. "Come down. Please. Come back to me." But before he could move, Daryl roared, clutching his bleeding arm. "Enough. Kill them all." Gunfire erupted again. Marcus dragged me and Tiana behind the car as bullets sparked against metal. Malik dove off the trunk, crawling toward us. The alley became a war zone. Screams, shots, rain, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. My ears rang, my chest ached, but all I could think was, my children are in the middle of this madness. Then, through the chaos, red and blue lights flooded the alley. Sirens wailed. "Police." Daryl cursed, signaling his men. "Fall back." They scattered into the shadows, vanishing like ghosts. Daryl glared at Marcus one last time, his voice low and venomous. "This isn't over." And then he was gone. The police stormed the alley, guns drawn. Marcus dropped his weapon, hands raised. I held Tiana tight, Malik pressed against me, shaking like a leaf. "Down! Everyone down!" officers shouted. Within seconds, Marcus was on the ground, cuffed. I screamed, trying to explain. "Wait! He's not the enemy. They're after us." But the officers weren't listening. They saw a black man with a gun and assumed the worst. As Marcus was shoved into the back of a squad car, his eyes locked on mine. "Vanessa," he shouted through the rain, "protect the kids. Don't let them get him again." And then the door slammed, and he was gone. I stood frozen in the flashing lights, holding both my children, trembling so hard I thought my bones would break. The officers swarmed, asking questions, taking statements, but I barely heard them. My mind was stuck on Marcus's last words. "Don't let them get him again." I looked down at Malik, his face pale, eyes empty. Tiana clung to me, sobbing. My family was splintered, broken, and I was the only thing holding us together. But Daryl wasn't finished. And somehow, my son was still tied to him. As the police escorted us to the ambulance, a phone slipped from Malik's pocket. The screen lit up with a single message, sent just minutes ago. "Tomorrow. Midnight. Bring her, or it's over." And the sender? Daryl. The ambulance lights flashed red against the rain-slicked street as I sat with Tiana wrapped in a blanket beside me. Malik sat across from us, silent, his hoodie pulled low over his eyes. His phone was still warm in my hand, the message burning in my brain. "Tomorrow. Midnight. Bring her, or it's over." I didn't know who her was, but I had a sinking feeling it wasn't me. My stomach twisted as I pulled Tiana closer. "Malik," I said softly, trying not to draw the paramedics' attention. "What does this mean? Who do they want?" His jaw tightened. He didn't answer. "Baby, look at me," I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. "If you know, you have to tell me. Please." Finally, his eyes lifted, red-rimmed and full of something between guilt and fear. "It's Tiana." The words slammed into me. "What?" "They want her," Malik whispered, glancing at his sister. "They think she's leverage. Against Dad. Against you. Against all of us." I pulled Tiana tighter, her small body trembling against mine. "Over my dead body," I hissed. Malik swallowed hard, his lips quivering. "Mom, I didn't tell them anything. I swear." "But Daryl, he already knows. He said if I didn't cooperate, they'd take her themselves." Tiana whimpered, burying her face into my chest. Rage boiled in me, hot and blinding. My own cousin-in-law was threatening my children, tearing my family apart. The ambulance stopped at the hospital. Officers swarmed, separating us into different rooms for questioning. I gave my statement, but every time I mentioned Daryl's name, the detective's eyes narrowed like he didn't believe me. When I begged them to release Marcus, they shook their heads. "He had a weapon, Mrs. Brown. With his record, we can't just let him walk." His record. I wanted to scream. They didn't know the truth. The debts, the danger, the lies that forced him into the shadows. To them, Marcus was just another black man with a gun in the wrong place at the wrong time. By the time they released me and the kids, dawn was breaking over Atlanta. The rain had stopped, but inside me, the storm only grew worse. At home, I tucked Tiana into bed, though she clung to my arm like she was afraid I'd vanish. "Don't let them take me, Mommy," she whispered. My throat tightened. "Never, baby. I promise." But promises felt empty now. I went to Malik's room. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. The boy who once begged me to teach him how to ride his bike, who used to sneak cookies before dinner, now looked like a soldier carrying secrets too heavy for his age. "Talk to me," I pleaded. "Why did you go along with them? Why Daryl?" His voice cracked. "Because I hate him." "Marcus?" I asked cautiously. He nodded. "He left us. And when Daryl showed up, he said Dad didn't care, that Dad owed money and would never come back. He said I had to protect you and Tiana. That if I worked with him, you'd be safe." Tears welled in his eyes. "I didn't know he was using me, Mom. I thought I was saving us." My anger dissolved into grief. I wrapped him in my arms, feeling the boy under the weight of all his mistakes. Baby, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. We're going to fix this. Together. But as I held him, my mind was racing. Daryl wanted Tiana. And midnight was less than a day away. That evening, I drove to the jail, begging to see Marcus. They allowed me one short visit, separated by thick glass. When he saw me, his eyes softened, though exhaustion lined his face. Vanessa. Thank God you're safe. I pressed the phone to my ear, fighting tears. Safe? They want Tiana, Marcus. Midnight tomorrow. What do we do? His expression darkened. Daryl won't stop until he gets what he wants. And what he wants is control. If he has Tiana, he has us. I leaned in, whispering fiercely. Then tell me how to stop him. He hesitated. There's only one way. I've been keeping something from you. My stomach dropped. What now? The debt. It wasn't just gambling. Daryl and we ran a side business years ago. Stolen cars, guns. I got out, but he never forgave me. He said I owed him forever. When I refused, he came after me. That's why I faked my death. The ground shifted beneath me. So all this, our family's nightmare, is because of you? His eyes glistened. Yes. And I'll carry that. But Vanessa, listen. He has records. Evidence of everything. If you can find it, you can bury him before he buries us. I swallowed hard. Where? His old hideout, Marcus said. The warehouse on 8th. There's a safe under the floor. That's where he keeps the files. The guard tapped the glass. Time was up. Marcus pressed his hand against the glass. Promise me, Vanessa. Protect the kids. And if you can, burn him with his own secrets. I nodded, even as my heart ached. I left with one plan in my head, get to that warehouse before Daryl's men found me. That night, when the kids were asleep, I slipped out. The streets were eerily quiet, the city lights glinting off wet pavement. My stomach churned with every mile closer to 8th Street. The warehouse loomed, abandoned and silent. I crept inside, flashlight in hand, every shadow a threat. The smell of rust and mildew filled the air. I found the spot Marcus described, an uneven patch of floor near the back. Dropping to my knees, I pried at the boards until my fingers bled. Finally, a metal box appeared beneath the rotten wood. I hauled it out, heart racing, fumbling with the lock. With a sharp rock, I smashed it open. Inside were stacks of ledgers, photos, flash drives, evidence of illegal deals, weapons shipments, names, numbers. Enough to put Daryl away for life. But just as relief washed over me, a voice slithered from the shadows. Well, well. Look who found my little treasure. The beam of a flashlight blinded me. Daryl stepped forward, his arm bandaged, a pistol gleaming in his good hand. I was hoping you'd come, Vanessa, he sneered. Makes things so much easier. I froze, the evidence clutched to my chest. Daryl tilted his head. You thought you could outplay me? Cute. But here's the truth, you were never the target. It was always about the kids. Malik's loyalty. Tiana's innocence. And now, thanks to you, I've got everything I need. My voice shook. You'll never have them. I'll die before I let you touch my children. His smile was cold. Oh, Vanessa. That's exactly what I was counting on. And then he raised the gun, the barrel glinting in the dark. The cold barrel glinted inches from my face. My breath caught in my throat as Daryl's smirk widened, his shadow stretching across the dusty warehouse floor. Don't look so scared, Vanessa, he drawled. You've always been stronger than Marcus. But strength can only take you so far. My fingers tightened around the box of evidence, its weight pressing into my ribs like a second heartbeat. I forced my voice steady, though my hands trembled. You don't have to do this, Daryl. Let us walk away. I'll give you the box. His laugh was sharp and cruel. You think I'm stupid? That box is the only insurance I've got left. You hand it over, and I'll still have to kill you. Otherwise, you'll run straight to the cops. I glanced toward the exit, measuring the distance. Too far. Too exposed. He'd shoot before I even reached the door. So what now? I asked, stalling for time. You kill me here and disappear? What about Malik? What about Tiana? At their names, his eyes gleamed. Malik already chose me once. He'll do it again. As for Tiana, he licked his lips, and my blood ran cold. She'll keep Marcus in line. A bargaining chip. Rage surged through me, burning away the fear. You touch my daughter, and I swear. The gun cocked, cutting me off. Careful, Vanessa. Don't make promises you can't keep. The silence stretched, broken only by the drip of water somewhere in the darkness. My pulse thundered. I needed a distraction, a weapon, anything. Then a voice rang out behind Daryl. Drop it. Marcus. He stepped from the shadows, his orange jail uniform soaked and torn, his face bruised but defiant. He held a length of rusted pipe like a bat, eyes locked on Daryl. Daryl barked a laugh. Well, well. The dead man lives again. You never quit, do you, Marcus? How'd you get out? I gasped, hope flaring. Marcus didn't look at me. His gaze stayed on Daryl. Doesn't matter. What matters is ending this tonight. Daryl's pistol swung toward him. You always thought you were better than me. Smarter. But look at you now, backed into a corner, no escape. You should have stayed dead. In a blink, Marcus lunged, swinging the pipe. The crack of metal against bone echoed through the warehouse. Daryl staggered, cursing, but the gun fired, the shot ripping through the air. I screamed, diving for cover as sparks rained from a shattered light above. Marcus grappled with Daryl, both men grunting, fists flying. The gun skittered across the floor toward me. My heart stopped. I ran for it, every muscle screaming, and grabbed the cold steel just as Daryl shoved Marcus to the ground. Vanessa. Marcus roared. Now. I raised the gun, hands shaking violently. Daryl froze, blood streaming from a cut on his temple. His eyes bored into mine. You won't pull it, he sneered. You don't have the guts. You're just like him, weak. I tightened my grip, my finger brushing the trigger. My whole body shook. Mom, a small voice whispered. I spun. Malik stood in the doorway, eyes wide, chest heaving. He'd followed me. No. I cried. Go home, Malik. But he stepped forward, his gaze locked on the scene. Don't shoot him, Mom. Please. The words hit me like a slap. What? Tears streamed down Malik's cheeks. If you kill him, you're no better than he is. Please, don't make me lose you too. Daryl's smile returned, sick and twisted. See? Even your boy knows you're not cut out for this. Rage and love warred inside me. My hand trembled so violently I thought the gun might slip. For a moment, I saw myself pulling the trigger. Blood, screams, Malik's eyes filled with horror. Then I lowered the gun. Daryl's laughter filled the air. Pathetic. Absolutely. Marcus surged up, tackling him to the ground. They rolled, fists pounding, until Marcus slammed Daryl's head against the concrete. The impact echoed like thunder. Daryl went limp. I dropped the gun, rushing to Marcus. His chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face. Is he? Not dead, Marcus panted. But he's done. Malik stumbled closer, shaking. Mom. Dad. His voice cracked. What happens now? I glanced at the box of evidence still clutched in my hand. Now we end this. For good. We dragged Daryl's unconscious body into the corner, bound his wrists with torn rope we found among the debris. Marcus insisted on carrying the box. But as we reached the door, headlights flared outside. A black SUV screeched to a halt, tires spitting gravel. Men spilled out, guns glinting under the streetlights. Marcus froze. His crew. Panic clawed at my throat. We were trapped. The men stormed in, weapons raised. One barked, "Drop it. Hands up." I raised mine, fear choking me. Malik clung to my side. But then one of the men stepped forward, lowering his gun. His face was familiar. Detective Harris, the one who questioned me at the hospital. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded. His smile was thin, cold. "Cleaning up a mess. You see, Vanessa, Daryl wasn't working alone. He had partners. Inside the force." Marcus cursed. "I knew it." Harris nodded at the others. "Take the evidence. Kill the rest." The box was ripped from Marcus's hands. Guns rose again, barrels aimed at our chests. I grabbed Malik, shielding him with my body. This was it. But before the first shot rang out, Daryl's weak voice rasped from the corner. "Wait." Harris turned. "You should be unconscious." Daryl coughed, blood dripping down his chin. "You idiots. Don't kill them yet. She's got something we need." His finger trembled as he pointed at me. "She knows where the backup files are." The warehouse went silent. All eyes turned to me. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what he was talking about. But in that instant, I realized something horrifying. Daryl wasn't just trying to save himself. He was dragging me deeper, using me as his final shield. Harris smirked. "That's so, Vanessa. Guess you and I need to have a little talk." He raised his gun and aimed it directly between my eyes. The muzzle of Detective Harris's gun stared me down like a black eye, cold and merciless. My pulse thundered in my ears. Malik gripped my waist so tight his nails dug into my skin. "You've got 5 seconds to tell me where the backups are," Harris sneered. "Or your kid watches you bleed." I forced my breath steady, even though terror squeezed my chest. I had no idea where any backup was. But I knew one thing: if I showed fear, we were dead. 5-4. My mind raced. Then it clicked. Bluff. If Marcus had been smart enough to hide evidence once, maybe Daryl had too. I had to convince them. "They're not here," I said, my voice calm, steady. "Daryl wasn't stupid. He made copies. If anything happens to me, a package goes straight to the DA." Harris's smirk faltered. His men shifted uneasily, exchanging glances. "That's a lie," he snapped. I met his eyes. "Try me." For a beat, the room was silent except for Daryl's ragged breathing. Then Harris lowered the gun just slightly. "Fine. Then you're coming with us." 2 of his men grabbed my arms, yanking me forward. Malik cried out, clutching me, but one shoved him back toward Marcus. "Leave the boy," Harris ordered. "Take her. She's leverage." Like hell. Marcus exploded, surging to his feet. A rifle but slammed into his stomach, knocking him down. Malik screamed, falling beside him. "Mom." I twisted in their grip, my heart shattering. "Stay with your father. I'll be okay." The lie burned my throat. They dragged me out, shoving me into the back of the SUV. Daryl's limp body was hauled in two, his eyes fluttering open with a bloody grin. "Told you," he croaked. "She's the key." I wanted to claw his face until nothing was left. Instead, I sat rigid, hands bound, every nerve on fire. The SUV sped through Atlanta's streets, headlights slicing the darkness. My mind raced. How to survive, how to flip this, how to protect my children. At last, we pulled up to a sleek high-rise downtown. The men hustled us into a private elevator that opened into a penthouse. Polished floors, glass walls overlooking the city. Corruption had bought them luxury. They shoved me into a chair. Harris leaned against the counter, arms folded. "Now, where's the package?" I forced a smirk. "You really think Daryl trusted me with that? He barely trusted his own shadow." Daryl coughed a laugh from the couch where they dumped him. "She's lying. But she knows more than she admits." Harris backhanded him. "Shut up." I seized the moment. "You don't need him. He's a liability. But me? I can give you what you want. Protection. Evidence gone. Your name's clean." His eyes narrowed. "Why would you help us?" I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Because Marcus betrayed me. He ruined our family. He faked his death, left me to pick up the pieces. You take him down, and I'll make sure those backups disappear." It was a gamble. Sell the idea of betrayal to buy time. Harris studied me for a long, tense moment. Then he chuckled. Maybe you're smarter than I thought. He poured a drink, ice clinking. But smart doesn't mean safe. You'll prove yourself. He slid a burner phone across the counter. Call Marcus. Lure him. We'll finish this tonight. My stomach flipped. Call Marcus. Betray him? No, pretend. Buy more time. My fingers shook as I dialed, praying he'd read between the lines. The phone rang once, twice, then his rough voice answered. Vanessa. I forced my tone cold. Marcus. It's over. They have me. If you want Malik and Tiana safe, bring yourself to the old train yard. Alone. A sharp inhale on the other end. Nessa. I cut him off. No games. Midnight. Train yard. I hung up, shoving the phone back toward Harris. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Good girl, Harris said with a smile. Maybe you'll make it out of this after all. But in my gut, I knew, midnight at the train yard would be a slaughter. When they locked me in the guest room to wait, I scanned every inch for an exit. Windows sealed. Door bolted. My hands bound. Then I saw it, a security panel glowing faintly in the corner. A house like this was wired tight, but maybe, just maybe, it could also be its downfall. I shuffled closer, kneeling beside it. My wrists burned as I rubbed the rope against the sharp corner of the panel until, with a snap, it frayed loose. My hands were free. Adrenaline surged. I yanked the panel open, wires sparking inside. I didn't know what I was doing, but I yanked the red wire, praying it triggered something. Suddenly, alarms blared. Sirens wailed through the building. Harris's men shouted outside. The door burst open. One lunged at me, but I slammed the panel cover into his face and bolted past him. I sprinted down the hall, heart hammering, and crashed into the main room. Harris spun, gun drawn. Stop her. But in the chaos, I darted toward the balcony doors, yanking them open. The night air hit my face as I raced onto the terrace 30 stories up. The city glittered below. The ledge loomed. I had two choices, jump or fight. I grabbed a chair and hurled it at Harris as he stormed after me. The glass wall behind him shattered, spraying shards. Daryl groaned from the couch, clutching his bleeding side. Idiot! Don't let her get away. The alarms screamed louder. For a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, the rail police were coming. But Harris didn't flinch. He raised his gun, aiming straight at me. And then a deafening crack split the night. Harris froze. His eyes went wide. He staggered, dropping the gun. Blood spread across his chest. Behind him, in the shattered doorway, stood Marcus. He held the pistol I'd dropped in the warehouse, smoke curling from the barrel. My breath caught. Relief and terror tangled in my chest. Harris collapsed. His men scrambled, but Marcus fired again, dropping another. The rest bolted, fleeing into the stairwell. Marcus rushed to me, grabbing my shoulders. Are you okay? Tears blurred my vision. The kids, where are they? They're safe, he said quickly. Malik got them out. But we don't have much time. More will come. A groan from behind made us spin. Daryl was crawling across the floor, bloodied but alive, reaching for Harris's fallen gun. Marcus, I whispered, panic rising. He's still. But before I could finish, Daryl snatched the weapon, rolling onto his back. His eyes burned with fury. You'll never be free of me, he spat, lifting the gun with shaking hands. Marcus moved to shield me. The world slowed. My scream caught in my throat as Daryl's finger curled around the trigger. Perfect. This is the final showdown. In Chapter 8, everything comes to a head. Daryl's last stand, Marcus's fate, and Vanessa's ultimate act of revenge. We'll balance action with closure, and make sure it lands like a true YouTube saga ending. Shocking, emotional, and satisfying. Chapter 8. The room froze as Daryl's trembling hand steadied the pistol. His bloodied face twisted with hatred, his breath rattling like a broken engine. You thought you could bury me, he hissed, eyes locked on Marcus. But I'll bury you first. Vanessa, get back. Marcus barked, pushing me behind him. My heart pounded. Not again. I couldn't watch him die again. I couldn't let Daryl win. Time slowed. I saw Daryl's finger tighten on the trigger, the barrel aimed squarely at Marcus's chest. My scream tore out before I could stop it. No. I lunged forward, shoving Marcus aside just as the gun exploded. The shot rang like thunder. The smell of gunpowder burned my nose. Pain didn't hit me. Not yet. But the sight did. Daryl staggered, confusion flickering in his eyes. A hole bloomed red across his shirt. The gun slipped from his fingers, clattering to the floor. Behind him, standing in the shattered doorway with wide, terrified eyes, Malik. He held a second pistol, his hands shaking violently, smoke rising from the barrel. I had to, Malik stammered, tears streaming down his face. He was going to kill Dad. Daryl crumpled onto the floor, coughing blood. His lips curved into one final, twisted smile. Apple doesn't fall far, he rasped before his body went still. The silence that followed was deafening. I stumbled toward Malik, wrenching the gun from his trembling hands. His whole body shook, his eyes glazed with shock. You saved us, I whispered, pulling him into my arms. He sobbed against my chest, his shoulders convulsing. Marcus stood frozen, staring at his son. His face was pale, his eyes haunted. My boy, you. Don't, I snapped, cutting him off. He did what he had to do. What you couldn't. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. The sirens finally pierced the night, growing louder, closer. The alarms I'd triggered had summoned the real police. We didn't run. We couldn't. There was no running from this. Minutes later, officers swarmed the penthouse. Guns raised, commands shouted. They cuffed Marcus on sight, dragging him aside. I screamed, fought, but it didn't matter. He was still a wanted man, still tangled in Daryl's dirt. Malik sat silent, numb, staring at his hands as if they were stained forever. I shoved the box of evidence into the nearest officer's hands. Take it. Everything's in there. Dirty cops, Daryl's operations, all of it. Check the flash drives. You'll see. The detective in charge eyed me, skeptical. But he gave the order, and the evidence was secured. Hours blurred together. Statements. Hospital checks. Malik's trembling confession. Tiana crying in her sleep when I finally brought her home. When the sun rose, painting Atlanta gold, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the quiet house. Marcus was gone, taken back into custody, facing charges that might bury him for years. Daryl was dead. And Malik, my sweet boy, had crossed a line he could never uncross. I held his hand as he dozed on the couch, his head heavy on my shoulder. You'll never be alone in this, I whispered. But I knew scars were already carved deep. 3 weeks later, the headlines exploded. Major corruption ring exposed in APD. Councilman linked to criminal syndicate. Evidence provided by local widow brings down dirty cops. My name wasn't mentioned, but I didn't care. I had done it. Daryl's empire collapsed, his allies dragged into the light. Marcus's charges were reduced. Manslaughter dropped, possession still standing. His lawyer said with good behavior, he might see daylight again in 5 years. 5 years. I visited him once. Sat across the glass, the same as before. He looked smaller somehow, tired. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. I nodded, tears stinging but refusing to fall. You broke us, Marcus. But we survived. I survived. He pressed his palm to the glass. Take care of the kids. I stood, leaving without touching the phone. Some wounds couldn't heal. Not now. Maybe not ever. Back home, I found Malik in the backyard, staring at the sky. He'd barely spoken since that night. I sat beside him, sliding my arm around his shoulders. You saved us, baby. Don't ever forget that. You saved us. He swallowed hard. But I killed him. My chest ached. You saved us, I repeated firmly. You did what you had to do. His eyes finally met mine, red and heavy. Then promise me something, Mom. Promise me you'll never let us fall like that again. I held him tighter. I promise. Tiana's laughter floated from inside the house, a fragile sound of normalcy. For the first time in months, I let myself smile. The storm was over. But storms leave wreckage. And I knew as I looked into Malik's weary eyes, that this was only the beginning of a different fight, the fight to rebuild what betrayal had shattered. Because betrayal cuts deepest in families. But revenge? Revenge makes sure it never happens again. My love. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.